You're live
Right,
now.
Sandra, make sure you go on mute. Okay. We are live. We are in the building. We are on Millennials Investing in Real Estate. Thank you guys so much for joining in. And thank you so much for the grace for us doing a reschedule from yesterday. We had some unforeseen events, but here we are today. And again, with some technical difficulties, but we're in the building today for module 3 of 6, the purchase. Man, this has been such a widely requested workshop that we definitely are happy that we were able to get here today. Of course, I've got my partner in crime with me. Mr. Pinkston is in the building.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night.
Yes. And so as you all know, I'm still in that situation where I'm looking here and there because of what's going on with my screen, but one monkey don't stop, no show. So we still gonna get you this information the way that it was intended for you. So just be cool, be calm, be collected, and get your notepads out because you're in for a treat. We're going to be covering information about purchase types, funding, making sure that it matches the type of asset that you're going to be purchasing, and of course, what partners you're going to be partnering with, if any. We're going to be talking about the location, how to find that location that you should be purchasing in. We're going to be going over the analysis, what that looks like as far as determining and understanding what your, not only what your feasibility is, but what that looks like for you in the end. We're also going to be talking about what happens once you go under contract, the diligence period, inspections, attorney reviews, and all of that, CTC, which is clear to close. And then we're going to touch a little bit on the renovation, which some of my husband and I have been actually investing in the past, what we're investing in right now. We're just going to touch on a little bit because you'll get more details about that in module 4. So if you're wondering, if you got questions about, well, what happens next with the renovation and this and that and the third, stay tuned for module 4. We're just going to give you a sneak peek today. Sound good, babe?
Sounds fantastic. Let's
New
roll.
Vision Construction is in the building. This is Ernie L. Pinkston Jr. He's the CEO and the owner of New Vision Construction, who leads the projects that we often embark upon ourselves as investors. We're a husband and wife duo, been married for 17 years. He's been doing this way longer than that. I just jumped on as a sidekick, right? To just kind of put a lot of the ink to the pad and make some things happen for us. And he's all the wheels behind it and everything. So, babe, you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I was born by the river in a little tent.
Yeah, y'all gonna get a lot of that. I'm sorry, you're gonna get a lot of that. Enjoy.
Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate it. It's a blast to be a part of this module series. I'm very excited to be able to share information with our millennials. That's our target here. And
not just for millennials, though.
Right, I know. That's why I say it's just our target. But if we think about, had we been able to, if we had the resources that we are sharing with the young people now, we had those resources when we were younger, and we had the mindset to be disciplined and a little responsible and a little focused. Imagine what we may have been able to do in building wealth through real estate. 20 years ago. So I'm definitely proud to be a part of this module series, and in a sense paying it forward and sharing some great information that may empower some young people or some older people getting a fresh start in doing something like this, giving them the resources and the assistance that they will need to jumpstart their potential real estate businesses. So as New Vision Construction, we love partnering with investors, whether you're going to be a owner investor, where and what I mean by that is where you may purchase a property, a multi-unit property, and actually live in one of the units. So you're an owner-occupied investor, or someone who just wants to pick up some commercial property or some single families or multi-units or a combination and want to flip and fix or fix and rent. We love partnering with those types of individuals and lending our services with New Vision Construction. New Vision Construction has been in business since 2003, and what kind of established and kind of set off the mindset and the ideal of New Vision Construction is my past history, learning renovations and real estate investing from my dad, starting at the age of 10 when he bought his first piece of property. It took me along as they were renovating. He was learning, learning how to do stuff. He made a lot of mistakes, and I was right there watching. And as time went on, he became better at his craft and using people around him that for their skills and giving them pointers and tips, and sometimes doing the work themselves. So over time, from the age of 10, for over all the way through high school and even into college, I started to learn a lot more knowledge about doing different aspects of renovation and construction, and was able to make some money, extra money, even in college, doing odd jobs, construction type jobs for property owners. So from that, I'm a proud member of the Chicago Fire Department, the best fire department on earth. Um, that kind of gave
21
me
years this year for my baby, y'all. Had to jump and say that. Yes, thank you for your service, my love.
Thank you so much. But that position has been a blessing because it gave New Vision Construction a springboard to launch and become New Vision Construction. And since then, since 2003, when we officially launched New Vision Construction, we have done a number of renovations, large and small, kitchens, baths, full gut rehabs on single families, multi-unit buildings. And we continue to do business and renovations. We're kind of knee deep in the commercial side now, starting to pick up a lot of that business right now. And of course, as you know, sweetheart, we just picked up another fifth flip and fix that we're going to do some incredible game-changing renovations in it. So as New Vision Construction, we work along with my wife, with the Pink Investors group and network. And what we do is we work with potential buyers, and we're able to go out on property views and kind of give you a guesstimate on what it would cost to renovate the property. So you can sit down with my wife or whoever your realtor is and kind of work out the numbers and see if that property is a great buy for you. So we do that for the most part free of charge to a certain extent. And then if you are awarded the property, we can provide you with a more exact, more accurate bid, along with some of the other bids you should be getting, as far as interviewing and finalizing and identifying a rehab crew or company that will do the work for you. So we're proud to be a part of that process, whether it be just from the initial walkthrough or being hired as the construction services crew that will complete the renovation for you. Either way, we are proud to be a resource and be partnering with the Pinkston Investors Network and these modules in order to give the construction aspect to you so you can understand that at least to have a entry level mindset and ideal of how this aspect of the real estate investing process works. We're licensed and bonded, and we're ready to roll and ready to be of assistance wherever we're needed. So I think that's about it. I might be rambling on a little bit too much here.
Oh, we love it. I love to hear you talk, boo.
Right. I got you, baby. But anyway, that's about it. And we're proud to be a part of this. And you are just sit down, put your seatbelts on, and just hold on for the ride. You're going to get some great information that will help take your real estate investing business or endeavors to the next level. So thank you very much.
All right. And in a nutshell, what that means is we got your back. Okay. So when I take you out to look at your properties in today's time, is more so doing virtuals. He's right there with on the spot estimates and things like that, so that you are competitive when it comes to your offers, not only because you have an on the spot estimate that's more in the ballpark range of what it's going to take to help you get that property fixed up, but you're also in good hands with a realtor who is tech enabled, and I get that offer right in oftentimes before we even leave the site, so that first come first serve, and sometimes they're looking to make some decisions on who has a completed offer packet in, and that, my friends, would be you. Okay. Thank you, baby, for that introduction. That's a picture right there of our last workshop. That was so exciting, so fun. It was at our church, Third Baptist Church of Chicago on 95th and Ashland. We had a full room. We had our whole team there, our concierge team of attorneys there, lenders there, inspectors there. And that's my husband in the background there, just giving some construction aid to some individuals with some questions. It was just an amazing turnout. We can't wait to get back into that groove live and in living color with you all. But for now, virtual it is. So here we go. The purchase types, you got your fix and flips. Those are the properties that, I mean, it's exactly what it is. You get it, you fix it up, and you flip it, meaning you turn around and you sell it. Sounds very easy. There are a lot of mechanical intricacies involved with that process, but for the most part, once you're doing your purchase, you're going through that estimate part that we talked about. Once you're actually getting serious and you actually got it, under control, you know this is the property you're going for. You get some in-depth estimates from your contractor to know specifically what it is that you'll need to get this property fixed up. Now, those numbers can vary once you actually get into the property. Things happen. There are some unforeseens that may be estimated for. They may or may not occur. And then you've got some things that may pop up that just were not on the books. For instance, it could have something to do with zoning, depending on the type of fix and flip. If it's commercial, if it's more than 4 units, and things like that. Once you're flipping that property, obviously the back end numbers matter as well, not just the front end numbers as far as going into the property. What are you going to sell it for? How much is it going to come out? And is it going to be worth your time getting into that investment, knowing what those numbers are on the end? That's important. You got your fix and hold. Once again, you're buying the property, you're fixing it up. It's kind of assumed that the majority of the properties that you're going to purchase are going to need some work, right, babe? I need a little bit of work. No matter how extensive, if it's cosmetic, it's going to need a little work. So that's the fix part. The hold is not selling it, not flipping it, but holding on to it because you intend to rent it out. Not all investments are intended to rent out, though. Some of them you may just be holding on to it just for the resale value to increase or improve. There might not be anything to rent out. It could already be rented out, could already be full. They could be vacant and looking for, lease ups to put tenants in, or again, it might not even be that at all. Some purchases are just to purchase and hold on to it for that value to be realized, whatever that yield, that return is that you're looking for. So we'll get more into that in future modules. Then you've got your vacation rentals, which my husband and I, again, will give you a little bit about that as far as how we started investing overseas. And then last but not least, Airbnb. We also do put our vacation rental on Airbnb, but you can invest in Airbnb fix and flips or fix and holds and use them in Airbnbs, and give caution to areas that will not allow Airbnbs, but give you some pushback with having Airbnbs in those communities. Some people are serious about how, in fact, that they are allowing what in their community. So you want to definitely be mindful of that. Okay. All right. Location. It is very, very detrimental to understand and know what location you'll be purchasing in. Is the area that you're considering an area that is looking for renovations? Is it an area that needs renovations? Are you familiar with the area? Is it near where you'll actually be working, living? Is it going to be a hassle for you to get back and forth to that location? Babe, I'm sure you've got some stories that you can tell as far as a location being so far from where you work and live that it might make it hard to get there when there's something that's needed, especially if it's an area that needs more security for the property. You want to be able to get there as quick as possible, or have somebody that you can get there as quick as possible to take care of that and keep that building secure, that asset secure, right?
That's right.
You've got opportunity zones. This definitely is not a module where we'll get into that. We're definitely going to be having another workshop outside of these 6 modules on opportunity zones. I'm going to be bringing in some opportunity zone specialists to actually talk about that. But you do not need to just have capital gains funds to invest in an opportunity zone opportunity. I don't want to get into the specifics about that, but those areas, I want you to put that down on your notepad and keep that in the back of your mind, because we're going to be bringing that to you, and we need to be taking advantage of those areas, okay, to actually utilize our investment power, okay, in those communities, because they're much needed. And other muni funding directed areas, which means areas that also have benefits or incentives from the municipalities to actually use to invest in specific areas that you may not have been considering investing in before, but because that's where those funds are designated towards, those are areas you would need to consider if you want to take advantage of those funds. Okay. Analysis. So this is where it gets really, really important to listen and pay attention. There are some key factors into purchasing a property. The basics are what we know. How much does it cost? How much do we have to put into it? And how much are we going to get out of it, right? Those are the basics. 1, 2, 3. It's not just that simple though, because there's a process, there's a time frame that goes into that we often don't consider. When we're looking at what we're paying into it, okay, that's right now. We're looking at comparables. How much did properties sell for within the last 6 months in a 1-mile radius around that property, right? That's where yours truly comes in. That's the information I provide to you to let you know, first and foremost, if this is a good purchase right now. Then what you want to know and understand is at the end of your purchase, your fix up, whatever that is that you intend to do, the time frame that takes, what is it going to be worth once that process is over and now it's time to put it on the market? Well, if you do that within the 6 months, we're probably good, right? You're good. But most times, if it takes beyond that 6 months, and there are certain constraints that go into that, whether it's contractors, whether it's weather, whatever it may be, unforeseens that we talked about earlier, if it goes beyond those 6 months or beyond the lifespan of those comps, they're only good for 6 months. You go back looking for them for 6 months to get the value, they're only good for 6 months. So if some of those comparables that I pulled up closed 3 months ago, you've only got 3 months left. If they closed 2 months ago, you've only got, you get the point. So if by the time you're going through your process, and in the midst of that process, those comparables have fell off the market, we're constantly pulling comps and doing our diligence and looking and seeing what the market is doing, so that you know what your asset can actually do for you once you're done. So in this analysis process, we go through that to figure out what the comps are going to be by the time you're getting ready to sell. And I do that about 30 days before you're projecting being completed with your project, 2 weeks before you're projected to be completed with your project. Then, of course, several days prior to you actually putting it on the market. We're going to look at those values and kind of see what you can yield. Hopefully they are at or above where you thought you were going to be going into the process. So it's very important to make sure this analysis is looked at throughout your project, not just at the beginning of your project, and then don't look at it anymore until the end of your project. You want to definitely keep tabs on that, because then you can start to reallocate your resources if you need to, or acquire more resources if you need to perpetuate your activities to make sure you're meeting, what the market is doing and it's not beating you. Okay. Once you get under contract with your property, right? You found your property, you've done the search. That was our last module, the search and what all went into that. You found your property now. It starts to get quiet once you get under contract and you place your offer. It starts to get quiet from your realtor, at least, because what is happening now is your attorneys are getting into the nitty gritty of what it takes to make sure that you are getting equitable title in your property, right? You want to make sure there are no clouds in your title, meaning no liens or any possession indiscrepancies that somebody could come back and say, I actually own this property, or I have an interest in this property. Your title company, that's what that ensures, that there's going to be nothing that's going to prevent you from taking a clean title. And if there is something that pops up, we just went through that recently with our purchase that we just closed on last month. If there is something that pops up, you want to make sure that your attorneys can either ensure whatever that is that pops up, or you go through whatever steps that are necessary to get that cleared up. or whoever you're purchasing from goes through whatever steps necessary to get that cleared up. The point is you want to end up with a good, clean title that only has your interest on it, right? Your lender is hard at work at that point if you're going through financing. They are making sure that all the documentation that is needed for underwriting is getting in so that they can eventually get you to that point that we all want to hear. You are cleared to close. That's coming up next. The title company, like I said, they are at work. Your agent is still there working on your behalf. I get this so much. That's why it was detrimental for me to make sure I included this in this workshop. And I'm continually talking about this. We are still at work for you, but we are quietly in the background while the attorneys do what it is that they do. Once the property goes under contract and the document is executed, meaning signed by all parties, it's not executed if only the seller signed. It's not executed if only the buyer signs. It's executed when the seller and the buyer signs. Once it's executed, we're hands off. We can make no more changes to that document. Okay, not even so much as an initial, don't you even put a dot on it. We can no longer make any adjustments to that contract. It is solely up to the legal counsel in place, which is why it's important to have legal counsel. I do need to stress, however, that in Illinois, it is not a requirement to have an attorney, right? So if you're acting on your own behalf, hopefully you got the sophistication that you need to address the topics and the things that will come up in your process, in your transaction, because I do not, right? And most realtors do not. And even if they did, there are some attorneys who are realtors and realtors who are attorneys, whichever way they want to look at that, but they can't practice both in the same transaction. So it doesn't matter. They just may have the legalese for you, but they absolutely cannot practice real estate, cannot practice without a license for legalese. So while they may be able to give you advice, they're doing so under the auspice of their real estate license, which is advised against. So make sure if you're not that well versed in your legalese yourself, you hire an attorney to do it for you. Once you get to that closing table and you have to sign what, 100 some odd documents, babe? Mm-hmm. No one's helping you with that. You're just sitting there and you're expected to understand and know everything that's in those documents, because as time goes on and after the fact, the aftermath, whatever is in those documents that you signed, that's what you got to abide by. And that's what you have to do. And that's what you may have to succumb to depending on what's going on. So it is not required in Illinois to have an attorney, but it is highly, highly advised. If you don't have one that you are comfortable with or that you know, realtors can provide you that. I can give you a list of referrals of attorneys that I've worked with, that I feel comfortable working with, I've worked well with in the past. I know they get deals done. Or again, you search on your own for whoever that may be, but you got to definitely have somebody to have your closing at the table, or you can pre-sign, right? Let me back up a little bit because I did skip a part. Share the information, the communication that your agent, your attorneys are having with one another. They're going back and forth, which is why we're in the background. They're going back and forth. It's very important that we stay abreast to what's going on in the transaction. Even though we're on standby and we're in the background, there still may be some information that's pertinent to the questioning that may go back and forth. They may be asking you questions about the property or about what may have transpired between agent to agent. So they may sometimes go back and forth and need you to say, hey, ask your agent or see this. That's information that they should be copying us on. A lot of attorneys do not like to copy realtors on the communications. I'm not sure why that is, but what I do know is it's a benefit to you if I'm aware of what is happening in the transaction. I have a client right now who just told me, she said, we're closing on this date instead of this date, just FYI. And I'm like, no, we're closing on this date, because that's the last information I received from the title company / the attorney. That's what I'm going off of. That's when they do obviously include us in the loop to let us know when we're closing. Send us your statement if you're the listing agent. If not, make sure your buyer has their down payment funds ready or whatever, we're in the loop. So I was letting my client know, no, this is the date we're closing. Well, I got this information from my attorney yesterday that this is when we're closing. Well, I didn't get that information from the title company or the attorney. So let me check into that for you and I'll let you know what the final word is. Long story short, the client came back to me and said, you're right. My attorney said this is the date we're closing. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because we're the realtor is going to have the final no of when the closing is, because we're going to get copied at that point, at least from the title company. The lender is going to be included in that, the other attorney, the buyer, the buyer's agent, the selling agent, everybody's going to be included in that because everybody needs to be privy to that. So it's key to keep us in the loop during this entire transaction as much as possible so that we're all on the same page. There's no misinterpretation about who's closing when or what inspection items need to be gotten done and things like that. We went over inspection a little bit in the last module. I'll touch on that shortly too. You can also pre-sign instead of going to the closing table. So if you wanted to pre-sign all of your documents instead of attending the closing, which is what's happening a lot today, you can do that again with an attorney. Otherwise, they'll just be sending you a block full of documents for you to just look at and go through and wonder what this and that means. So you also are able to do that. There's a lot of other functionalities that goes into that, whether it's getting a power of attorney, things like that, or, you know, just a whole bunch of intricacies. Again, I'm not practicing law without a license, so I'm not going to delve into that, but definitely talk with an attorney about that option if that's something you're interested in. And then your down payment funds need to be prepared at that time. And that's usually an estimate that as a buyer's agent, I'll provide that for you so that you'll know what some typical costs are. Again, estimates, I highly emphasize and stress estimates. And most times I'm usually pennies off, if not exact on the dime, with what that number is going to be at closing. I've got clients that can tell you that they are so surprised that my numbers are so close. But that's because your typical information for your municipality that you're purchasing in, that doesn't change. Whatever transfer tax stamps are, that's what they're going to be. Whatever your title company may charge, that may vary because they charge different rates, just like realtors charge different rates, just like contractors charge different rates. So those things can vary, but not so extensively to the point that an estimate needs to be off by thousands of dollars. I mean, that would just be ludicrous. So those estimates are important because you need to know how much funds you should have available to come to the table with, if any at all. I've even had people come to the table and they've gotten a credit back. So here's the situation with this. If you don't have enough money to, and this is a sidebar, if you don't have enough money to bring down payments to the closing table, it's probably not the time for you to be investing in a property. And I'm gonna say that again, and somebody probably needed to hear that. If you don't have enough funds available to come to the closing table to close your deal, you're probably not ready right now to invest just yet. You might want to do a little more saving, get a few more resources available, whether that comes in partnerships with someone who will have the funds available to invest in that part of your project, whatever that looks like. Down payment assistance funds from different sources, that's cool too. But if you don't have the down payment funds, you probably don't have other funds for what ifs, right? You're going to need to have that. You need to have a safety net to be able to handle and do what it is that you need to do. Okay. So there's no one way to do this is the whole point. And whoever your professional is that's getting you into this situation and walking you through this should be able to have a vault of resources for you to be able to navigate this process, right? Okay. From escrow to closing, what does that mean? What does escrow mean? So I know a lot of people have a huge disparity of understanding on escrow, right? So your escrow funds in the regard to purchasing a property are basically your earnest money funds. What's earnest money, Sean? So that's money that you are actually putting up with the seller of the property or the seller's executive or the seller's attorney or whoever, the brokerage, to indicate that the amount, air quote, of interest that you have in placing that offer on that property. So they put that fund in an escrow, which is basically a fancy word for a bank account, separate from any other funds that they have for their operational businesses or their personal or whatever have you. And those monies sit there until your deal closes. Once it closes, it goes towards the purchase price, comes off of that, you owe that much less in your purchase. So when you're looking at it that way, it's two ways to look at it because it's two ways it can happen. One way to look at it is at minimum, I suggest $1,000, right? I've seen $500. I've seen no dollars, right? But I at minimum indicate $1,000 would show a seller your earnest interest in placing this offer on a property. You're not just going around placing offers. What does it hurt you to place offers all over the city and not put up any earnest money. You have no risk. You have no skin in the game that if you default on that contract, that you won't just walk away and have nothing to lose from it. So if you walk away from a deal, you've got earnest money in, a seller can keep your earnest money if you don't follow, I guess, some of the contractual reasons that you can get out of a deal, meaning you don't get financed. That's one contingency that has to be met. If you can't get financed, that is a valid reason to cancel a contract and get your earnest money back. If an inspection occurs and during that inspection under the due diligence period, you find out that there are so many things wrong with this property that you did not expect, that now you no longer want to go through with the property. You got two things to do there. One, you can ask the seller for a credit to fix a lot of those things that you found wrong in the property. And once you figure that estimate out, that it costs, that's where New Vision Construction or whoever your contractor is comes in. They give you an estimate on what those things cost for you to ask for that credit. You can ask the seller to fix it themselves. Most people obviously opt to have the credit so they can have people they trust to do it themselves. Some people don't want to be bothered and just want the seller to get it done and let me know when it's done. We'll come back, check it out, make sure it's done to our satisfaction, then we're ready to close. It's up to you, depends on the situation. Or another way you could do it is once you have an inspection, if you do not ask for a credit and you do not want the sellers to have it done for you, you can say it's too much work. It's nothing I actually, want to embark upon. I want to cancel this contract. That's another reason you can contract. I don't want you to fix it. Nope. I don't want you to give me a credit. I don't even want, it's just too much. And it's going to take too much time for what I have time for. So those are reasons, a few of the reasons you can get out of a contract and to get your earnest money back. But if you just decide to say, you know what, I found another house up the street that's better. I found another house in another area that's better. I want to purchase this one instead, cancel that. That will not most likely get your earnest money back. And a seller does not have to sign off on your earnest money right away. I was just talking to another client more recently, and they were indicating they didn't want to put up a required, I think it was $10,000 for earnest money. Sometimes they'll have a requirement for what they want as earnest money for whatever reason. And the buyer did not, my investor did not want to put up that amount of money because they had heard some stories from other friends or whoever have you that they lost their earnest money or it took them forever to get their earnest money. Now they can't keep your earnest money. They can't do anything with it. It's just going to sit in that escrow account. And they have up to 6 months to hold out on signing off on releasing your earnest money if they choose to. Whatever their reason may be, it's not important what the reason is. What's important is we need to get this signed off on. Every month it doesn't get signed off on, that brokerage or whoever's holding it has to account for that earnest money sitting in that escrow fund. So they don't like that. So that's why you find nowadays a lot of brokerages are saying they do not hold earnest money. It becomes a hassle to kind of account for funds that you're not able to use. It's not going towards anything. It's just basically holding money that someone provided you and just being accountable for that money sitting there, right? Can't earn interest on it, can't do anything with it, but you have to put the manpower and the hours into accounting for it through, whatever accounting service you use or whatever have you. So those are reasons why inspection and earnest money are important. The more the earnest money, needless to say, the more that it shows you're interested in purchasing that property and you're interested in sticking it out. But then there's that risk on the other end that should something go wrong and you want to get your earnest money back, the time that it may take for the seller to sign off on returning you your earnest money could potentially be longer than necessary. Now, if there's no reason, there's no animosity through the situation, there was no distasteful communications going back and forth, there's usually 9 times out of 10, they're going to sign off on the document and move on because they're ready to go ahead and terminate the contract and put the property back on the market, right? So most likely they're not going to hold on to your earnest money because until that's released, there's still a deal. It's still on the contract. So keep that in mind. There's also insurance that's going on. You have to get insurance within 10 days of executing your contract. You have to get homeowners insurance, right? Get a quote and get that estimate, get that policy in place to be on your asset 10 days after the contract is executed, right? It didn't used to be that way until the License Rewrite Act earlier this year. So now that, this year. If 2010, my apologies, in 2010, if you don't have your insurance, it doesn't mean you still can't go through with the deal, but there is the option there to then terminate because all of the processes weren't handled in a contract. And that's the case with any of those loopholes. If you don't get financing by this date, seller has the right or buyer has the right to cancel the contract. You also have the right to forego canceling and just keep moving. Then you waive the right to cancel, right? So keep in mind, any of those things that exist in a contract are there to be utilized if so chosen to utilize. If you choose not to and still proceed on with the deal, you've waived the right to activate that authority to cancel. Okay, so keep that in mind. Your attorney review period is usually anywhere from 5 to 7 days. Your inspection period is usually 7 to 10 days. That inspection period is highly important. I touched on it a little earlier, but let me give you a rundown of specifically what can happen. You got 5 days to actually have the inspection. So as soon as you get under contract, you should already have an inspector in mind, or a list of inspectors from your professional, and call them and find out how much they charge, when those funds need to be paid, how they accept payment, all of those things, because that's separate from your realtor. That's specifically between you and the inspector. I will help schedule the inspection because obviously I have access to the unit. I have access to the selling agent, the listing agent. So I need to actually set up access if it's occupied. And of course, if it's vacant, I need to provide the code or meet them there for access. We need to make sure that we have that done within 5 days. If you don't have it done with 5 days, you are then waiving your right to cancel if you find anything from that inspection that you don't agree with. You also waive the right to ask for the assistance from the seller for anything that you found in that inspection. You also need to ask your inspectors how long it's going to take to get your inspection report back, right? Because that's time in your 5 days. Now, if you don't meet those 5 days, your attorney can request an extension, right? For the inspection period. They can request that extension during their attorney review period. All of this is happening within that same time frame because that's who's communicating on your behalf, your attorney. So it's important that you align those processes together so that your attorney can communicate hand in hand with what's happening on your end with the inspection. After those first 5 days to schedule the inspection, have the inspection done, get that report back, you then have another 5 days, which is where the 10 days comes from, to actually respond to the seller to let them know, if anything, what the findings are and what it is that you're requesting. What I mentioned earlier, a credit to get the inspection items fixed or them to fix it on their own. If you don't come to what's called a meeting of the mind after those 10 days, meaning just agreeing to get the credit, to have the items fixed, if you don't come to a meeting of the mind, the deal basically dies right there. Nobody is happy. Nobody's agreeing. Cancel the contract, right? We hope it doesn't get to that point because there's usually always a middle line where everybody can be happy, because what you got to think of is we can't nitpick on the small things like the light fixtures, an outlet. And I don't mean the electrical part of it. I just mean the covers, the outlet covers, things like that. We're looking for major things like what, babe? Plumbing, roof,
Heating, yep, heating and
heating,
cooling,
foundation, things
electrical.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that is expected to be operating and working in the home to basically have a safe property, a safe asset. And I'm not talking about in fix and flips. I'm talking about in properties that you would actually be going into to more so hold potentially, right? If you're fixing and flipping, you probably aren't so keen on those. And most likely those are as is anyway, most likely. Even if they are as is, guess what? You hired me, and if you tell me to ask for it anyway, I have to ask for it anyway because I work for you and that's what you want me to do and that's what I'm going to do, right? Worst thing they can say is no, is as is, or okay, we can do that, right? So keep that in mind too. So those are your ways that you can terminate a contract, and those are the processes that you need to be mindful of as far as timeframes within the contract. As your realtor, even though I'm in the bleachers, right? I'm in the nosebleed section. I'm still keeping tabs on the time frames But that is your attorney's job at that point. Your attorney is to make sure that every time frame is being met, every extension is being made before the deadline of extensions to be made. That is your attorney's job. That's what you're hiring for. That's what they're getting paid for. But I do work in tandem because I don't want a deal to fall apart, and I don't want you to get what it is that you came for just because it's not my job kind of thing. I still have a job to do with you, and my job is to make sure that you are represented well, okay? Anything you want to add to that, babe?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
Love it. Oh, and I literally skipped the first part. So in Illinois, within 24 hours, the earnest money needs to actually be turned in after the contract is executed within 24 hours. If it is not sent in and received, acknowledged to be received within 24 hours, therein lies another opportunity for the seller to cancel the contract if they want to. If they don't, they can forego the option to do so. Depending on who their attorney is or what the situation is, they still can, however, cancel, even if it's 2, 3, 4, 5 days afterwards. They still can, or they can just wait and allow you to still get the earnest money in. But during that time, they can still show the property. They can even accept another contract because technically it's not a bound contract without the earnest money being received. You'll see sometimes contracts written or people advising to write earnest money turned in within 3 days. Why would you even want to do that? You're not bound, you're not in a bound relationship if it doesn't get in within 24 hours. So if you know, as soon as you get the contract, the seller has signed the contract, you need to deliver that earnest money to that office or to wherever it's been designated to be received within 24 hours to make sure that you've met your end of the deal by consummating that contract. It's not even called a contract if you don't get the earnest money in. It's still an offer. It's still an offer. Contract and offer, people think are synonymous. They are not. You placed an offer when you sent it in. They signed it. It's still an offer until you turn in that contract escrow. So you turn that in, right? And remember, the higher, the better as far as showing and expressing interest, but there is a risk. There is a risk. Okay. You get your CTC. This is the fun part right here. This is the clear to close. This is what makes me happy because I have done my job and I see my client moving on to their next phase. I see the investors getting excited and getting ready and getting prepared, right? Getting their contractors hired, lining things up. I mean, it is such an exciting time for us. It's exhilarating. It does get quiet around that time. Like I said before, your lender is at work, the title company is at work. We're on standby. We're at the table. Here's the major part about the clear to close. If you are an investor for the first time, a clear to close to you means that you've gotten all your funding in, all your documents in to the lender, it's gone through underwriting. Should anything change, and that's not just for a first-time investor, this is for anybody, I take that back. Should anything change, even though you've gotten a clear to close, should anything change, that can change. This is what people don't realize. They think because they've gotten to the end of the line that it's all good. And now they can start working on, okay, now that I got to clear the close, let me go buy this so I can have this. No, please. And matter of fact, I should skip to the next slide on this. Do not buy a car, furniture, credit, loans, transfer large sums of money from your own accounts even. I had another deal where my client transferred $60,000 from one of their accounts to another account. That whole transfer stopped the entire process. And we were 1 week away from closing, not even a week. They asked the client to provide documentation of where the money went to, why it went there, what it was for. And by the time, this was an older client too. So they're pretty much often set in their ways, like, why do I have to share what I did with my money? They didn't understand the process. That's why this is now in my process, because even though I know the process, and even though you may say it to someone, it doesn't really resonate until you do something that you thought was okay because it's yours. Do not transfer large sums of money from one account to any other account. It doesn't even matter if it's your account, because now you have introduced a new thing into this process that has to be documented by underwriting, right? If you plan to use that other account, if you plan to use the account that you're transferring from, do not use that account to transfer to anywhere or transfer out of that account. Transfer anything into it, even large deposits. Don't do that, because that would then start the underwriting process all over again, right? And underwriting is about 2, 3, 4 days, depends on the caseload or whatever have you. That can delay your closing. That can delay just a lot of things in the process. Do not make any sudden moves, okay? Don't default on your payments. Pay any and everything that you are paying to get you approved, pre-approved the first time. Consistency with that is important, and it is key. Don't add any more debt. Don't close or cancel any debt, right? Don't co-sign for anyone. Do not quit your job. Don't quit your job. Don't quit your job.
That again.
Right. I could tell stories forever. I got a million of them. That's my hashtag. Where my uncle at? I hope my uncle on here. I got a million of them. But changing jobs because the timing was right. We get it. Timing is right. It's more pay, whatever your beneficial reasons are. You unfortunately will have to either cancel your process you're going through or realize and understand that now that you're on a new job with a new time frame that's starting from zero, you no longer qualify for that loan. It's not enough time on the job. You no longer qualify for the loan, and everything that you've put into it up until that point dies. It dies. Even if you default on a car note, if you default on a payment, there's a process you can go through, but some lenders will terminate the deal. You will no longer qualify. You have to go through some processes and some steps and some proofs of this and proof of that and receiving. It's just a lot of unnecessary headache. But if you know ahead of time what you should not do, it can save you and everybody in your transaction a lot of headache. Okay. And most importantly, don't disappear. Don't go ghost on us. We got to still communicate. We have to still hear from you in an expeditious time. Right? We have to hear from one another. If I need something from you to provide, whether a professional in the transaction has asked for it or not, I know it's coming up. I know what's needed. So I'm asking you for it now so that when they ask for it, I have it at the ready, right? Some people, just at the beginning, I'm going to rewind a little bit. Some people do not want to provide us their bank statement, the pre-approval letter from the lender. How are we going to know how much you are pre-approved for and what range we should be shopping in if we don't have that? How will we know? Some people say, because I told you, Sean. No, that's not going to work. I'm going to need the lender to tell me that, whether they type it in a letter, send it to me in an email, however that is. And when you send a bank statement, black out your account number. Nobody needs to see that. I don't need to see it. No one needs to see it. I just need to see, and they need to see what the bottom line is. The funds that you say you have available for a down payment needs to be shown sitting in, whether it's your bank statement, your 401k, wherever you have it sitting, we need to see that it's there. So when you say proof of funds is the document that's in addition to your pre-approval letter from the lender, because you have down payment. If you're not getting financing through a lender, then the proof of funds serves as your source of payment. That's more important to see. I need to see that if you say you want to purchase a home for $150 cash, where the money at? I need to see what account is sitting in, right? They can't be under your mattress. I'm gonna need you to put that in an account, and some banks require it to sit there for a while. 6 months, 3 months, right? Those are called your reserves, a seasoning period, right? Some banks, some lenders, I do know, only require a 1-day seasoning period, 24 hours. Right? I got a plethora of resources available for most situations. Okay. So do not do any of the things on this do not list. This is the for goodness sake list. Okay. For goodness sake, don't do any of these things. Please, 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 please. Some lenders actually have these things on the back of their business cards, along with things that they do need from you, which I really like that for those who still have business cards. Our next workshop is coming up January 9th, the renovation, where yours truly and Ernie will be talking about some specifics about the renovation. But for now, we want to talk to you about 2 projects. One is in Los Cabos. We actually have a residence there that we actually rent out on Airbnb. We're actually booked up for the year now, I think, right, babe? We don't have any more bookings available?
Not that I know of.
I think we're booked up for the year, which is amazing. So many requests have become heightened for New Year's Eve. People are traveling and going to so many places, but Los Cabos has really, really picked up, and we were booked out as of last week, I believe. And then we just purchased another property in the Ashburn community on 80th and Christiana, and we're getting that property up and running and going. So, Bay, I'm gonna toss this over to you to kind of tell the people what that looks like for us as far as not only what we're doing right now and how we're committing ourselves to how we're involved in our community, but our investment future, what that looks like and why we chose to do that.
Okay, well, I would start with the property that we acquired a fractional ownership in Los Cabos. Of course, Los Cabos is a beautiful, beautiful place to visit. It's one of the top 10 destinations for vacationers. Um, of course, we went there for our anniversary, and we found a great opportunity in a brand newly constructed five-star resort that was selling fractional ownerships to some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful condominium units. Um, After doing some due diligence and working out some numbers, we threw our hat in the ring in terms of picking up on some ownership rights out there. As a result, we were able to list that property on Airbnb, and and we had a great, great level of excitement, a lot of response to it. COVID, the COVID pandemic, kind of put a lot of stuff on hold, not just ours, but stuff all over the world has been put on hold. So just recently, we started to get a lot of traction when it came to this property, and I think we got two or three bookings with people. We don't know where they're getting the money from. Maybe they're real estate investors, but they booked with us, and they're going to bring in the new year at this glorious five-star resort in Cabo's Gold Coast. So even though we would love to be able to use the unit ourselves for some R&R, some much needed R&R, we bought it as an investment vehicle, and as a result of how how great this place is, and being new construction and location, and all that great stuff, we've been able to earn some income, some positive cash flow as a result of renting it out through the Airbnb platform. So we're excited to see, what next year will bring when it comes to this property. I'm pretty sure when we get back onto the traveling thing, we'll probably be looking at some other destinations and maybe picking up some ownership there. But what's so cool about real estate investing all overall is the tax relief that you get,
There you go.
the
That's
deductions
what I'm
that you
talking
get.
about.
And
That's what I'm
and that can be a whole module by itself. But where we're concerned, we're from time to time have to go and fly to Cabo to check in on our investment. And that those travel costs, and of course check with your tax advisor. We're not tax professionals. We are able to exercise some tax deductions from the travel expenses and other things as a result of having a property there. So we don't necessarily recommend, brand new beginners taking advantage of some international stuff. It does take some due diligence. It does take some knowledge of the real estate market, and of course, learning the market that those properties reside in, and understanding that that nation or that country, that island has its own set of laws that you have to abide by when it comes to real estate. And of course, finding an ideal property at the right price that has a lot of interest, so that that you can turnkey it over and start renting it out right away. So we're excited about the future with that one. I think we forecast that we'll have that one paid off in probably 2 to 3 years. And they threw in a bonus vacation package where we can go stay at other 5-star resorts all over the world.
And wait,
Yeah.
not now, but can't wait.
Right. Right. So so that's a caveat. That was a definite icing on the cake or cherry on top. But we can still travel for personal reasons and still experience and take advantage of the 5-star resort situation. So that's our international thing. We're looking to plant some seeds in some other spots as well as time goes on. But our baby here, we just picked up a single family home in the Ashburn community.
I can't wait to get my DJ thing going on. When you said my baby, I wanted to put up wah, wah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Or you can scratch to it too. You can bring back scratching, right? Right. When ones and twos. But we're really excited about this because this is a problem. We've been doing so many renovations for other people, homeowners, investors, etc. Now we are embarking in a pretty lofty renovation that's going to involve a second story and a rear addition to really maximize the potential profit of this vehicle this it is a vehicle, right? Investment vehicle. This property. But what we're really excited about is bringing the community together. This pandemic situation has really inspired us to want to help use the talents and the resources that God has given us to help others. And one of the things that we figure that we can do is how can we impact the local economy in our community. And one of the things that we plan on doing is, number one, providing opportunities to any subcontractors who reside in our community, giving them first rights to bid on the electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC, the masonry, the concrete flat work, drywall, hardwood flooring, tiling, painting, doors and trim, the frame out, the roofing, soffit and fascia, landscape, all those things that are vital, are much needed in order to complete this project. We intend to give first rights to bidding on this stuff to businesses and residents of our community. And we look forward to continuing with the next project and the next project, offering our community, people that live in our community, first rights to be able to partake in this, because we understand that in a lot of other communities, the dollar recirculates multiple times. And as a result of that, you can see how stabilized these communities are. The businesses are running good. Their home values are there. There's a lot going on. There's financial prosperity in a lot of other communities because they understand the concept of recycling that dollar bill. Unfortunately, in our community, that has been a challenge for us to really wrap our brains around that as a collective community. So it's going to take people like ourselves, and we plan on banding with other people in our community that feel the same passion that we feel, and helping us bring this project to completion. And then ultimately, the ultimate goal is to pass this property on to a family who obviously is willing and able to buy it at the price point it's going to be listed at, but be able to pass on a home that is truly well constructed, zero to no maintenance for several years. They have a property that they know they can be proud of and raise their family in. They know it's a safe property that they can be proud of. And for the community, not just New Vision Construction, Pinkston Investors Network, or our Pink Investment Group, LLC, to benefit from this, we're looking at the community as a whole being able to benefit from whatever aspects that we can open up and make viable for the community. Then we expect to take that group, and snowball it into the next property and into the next property, whether it be residential or commercial, and really show how a community can band together and utilize leverage our resources together as a unit and stimulate economic growth from a residential and commercial and business side in our community. Because a lot of our communities have been blighted. With us being right on the edge of the suburbs, the suburbs have been cannibalized in our business. We have a lot of vacant storefronts. Even though our household median income is something that a lot of businesses would say, hey, I want to open up here. But because someone needs to shine the spotlight on this, and we intend to be the instigators of this new economic growth. My wife being the head of the Greater Ashburn Development Association, our economic arm, I think this is a perfect storm where all these plans are coming into alignment for us as individual investors, being a part of our community group, having our investment groups and stuff, and being able to bring the community together and watch this property flourish, and using this as a springboard for future economic development in our community. So I'm truly excited. I'm really excited to get to work on this place. We got our architect. We just met with him today, take some final measurements. Me and my wife will be sitting down this evening, kind of finalizing some layouts to give the architect a little bit more guidance so he can finalize those plans, submit them for permits, and we're going to start building, baby. We're going to start seeing faces throughout the community coming into this place, hammering nails, bending pipe, sweating pipe, pouring concrete, filling in mortar joints, butt taping drywall, cutting corners on paint, installing doors, and watching this home hopefully become a lighthouse or a beacon for prosperous growth in our community. And hopefully with these types of modules, we can inspire others out there to do the same in their communities. So I'm excited. I'm glad to be a part of this. And God willing, we're going to see this thing to fruition.
You better say it, boy. That's what I'm talking about. He hit the nail on the head talking about what we intend to do in the Ashburn community, like in any community though, right? But if you are serious about your community and talking about what you want to see in your community, don't just talk about it, be about it. Get out there and do something with it. If you talk about investments that you want to see, be that investor, right? You talk about businesses that you want to see, be that business owner. That's another project we've got in the pipeline too. But let's really start making some things happen. 2020, if nothing else, it has shown us where we lack, what we're missing, what we need, how we can get it. Is opportunity is always in chaos, and taking advantage of it is the difference between those who succeed and those who remain stagnant, right? So my husband and I intend to be one of those couples who, put the money where the mouth is, basically. And not only will we, I want to touch on this too, babe, not only will we be giving first rights to those who work in the community, live in the community for working on the project, but also to purchase the project. So when that time nears, we'll be putting out information for those who already live in the community who want to purchase the project, purchase the property, then it'll be the home, right? Who want to purchase the home. The fact that you already have one, we'll have conversations leading up to that to see what we can do to get you out of that one and into the new home, and then get your home into the project state, just like this one, and continue that process throughout the community. Before you know it, we're the ones sustaining our own community. That's what it's all about. And it's going to take not just us, it's going to take all of us to put this process in motion and bring things to fruition that we want to see. Nobody's going to do it for us. We have to do it. Somebody will do it with us, but they're not going to do it for us, right? They'll do it after us. They're not going to do it before us, right? So I just wanted to put that out there too, because I think that has a lot to be said about what we can do to add to the catapulting of so much economic development in our community. And like my husband said, it will attract the businesses as well. Once the values improve and once we see businesses coming, our alderman is doing such a wonderful job bringing businesses to the community, that will do nothing but escalate. It'll escalate because they'll work synonymously with one another in alignment. So just wanted to mention that as well. Keep that in mind. Again, the next workshop, January 9th, the renovation. That'll be where Mr. Pinkston will take the floor and talk about specifics for renovations. Might even give a little demonstration. What you think, Big Pink?
Oh yeah, I can show how to hammer a nail.
Give a little demonstration, but talk about specifically that renovation. Once you get this process under your belt and the purchase is already underway, the clear to close has come, you've got your project. Now what, right? So we want to have that conversation, obviously, before you get into that process, or you might already be there and just need some tips and some pointers. That's where the renovation process is actually going to be. The module is going to be the one that you really need to hone in on and be tuned in for. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Central Time every time we have these workshops, every second Saturday. Today is Sunday. We know things happen, right? Don't let changes stifle you. Don't do that. Don't do that. I saw you. Don't do that. Don't let changes stifle you. Things happen, okay? So Sunday it is today, but it's every second Saturday of the month. You can go to @SeanR. Real Estate on the Facebook page or on Instagram, find information about the modules. You'll get the recordings if you pre-registered for the Saturday workshop. And for those of you who might have caught the postponement, if you registered for today, you're going to get that recording. If you did not register, it's okay. We still got you. Send us an email to millennials2020@SeanRPinkston.com. Millennials2020@SeanRPinkston.com. Babe, can you put that in the chat right quick? This is also on a Zoom, so you can join on Zoom and Facebook Live. We'll be in both places, okay? If you had any questions about this, feel free to email. Give me a call at 630-538-3932. I could be your realtor of choice as well. Of course, you've got New Vision Construction. If you're already in a process right now, or you're already thinking to get into one, whether I'm your realtor or not, New Vision Construction is for hire as well. 866-721-0107 is how you can reach Mr. Pinkston. Any more words before we out?
No, I just want everybody to opportunities are plentiful out here. Interest rates are at an all-time low. This is the time to strike. Many people have been displaced job-wise from COVID. Many people have been working at home. This is the time to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and create your own economy in your household. And you can do that through real estate investing. So if there's an economic downturn, or your company lets you go for whatever reason, because now they realize that they've understood how to run thin and still be profitable, and they may let certain people go. You want to protect your family financially by betting on yourself. And one of the things that you can do to bet on yourself and win by betting on yourself is through real estate investment. So I want to encourage anyone listening to this, whether you're here on this live or listening to the recording, that I know it may be a spooky kind of undertaking, but just understand, if you got the right team and you got the right people in place and you're willing to learn and you're open-minded. Remember, the mind only works, it's like a parachute, it only works if it's open, right?
Yes.
You
Better
know,
come
then
through with the comments.
So the bottom line is that take advantage of the opportunities knocking at your door. Open the door, answer it, let it come in. It's got a mask on, so don't worry about it. Embrace it, and you can watch you change the financial landscape for your family, start to build generational wealth for yourself and your family, which impacts the community around you. So I'm looking forward to hearing some success stories and possibly being a part of helping some success stories come true. So that's all I got to say. Happy Sunday. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for listening to New Vision Construction, of course, my lovely wife. But that's it for me, and I hope everyone stay blessed.
Amen to that. And don't forget, you can find this information on Facebook at Sean R. Pinkston Real Estate, or Instagram, same handle. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening if we don't see you again. God bless.
God bless.